Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. Excuse that I look like a Nintendo Switch, but let's just roll with it. I am really excited to be talking about the books I read in August. I am quite late to this video, but I do like to make them just because I can then look back onto my thoughts on the books I read, so it's kind of just a log for myself, but I hope you still enjoy this video. Now, I did not read a lot of books in August. I only read like 5 proper books, and 2 of the other books I read were kind of short stories, but I just added them to my Goodreads, so I thought I'll just mention them here. So let's just go through them one by one. The very first book I finished is this book right here, and this is called Live Like a Hot Chick. It is by Jody Lipper and Serena Vincent, and I actually picked this book up from the secondhand book sale we have near where I stay. And this book does look very like not really all that impactful or useful, but it actually had really good advice on things like your work life, your mental health, eating, and all of that, different like sections of your life, and how to take care of them like a hot chick, or you might even say girl boss in these days, because girl boss is another term that's quite popular nowadays. But this book was actually published long ago. I feel like, let me just see the date of publishing. So this book was published back in 2010, which is around 11 years ago, and it is kind of outdated, but I still feel like the advice was quite good considering how outdated it is. And I really especially liked the advice about eating, and how it talked about diets not being the answer to anything, and how restriction is not the answer, and I really believe that. So I really did like it quite a bit. I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5 on Goodreads, just because there were quite a few flaws with it, because it is quite an old book, but I still think it was really good given how old it is. And I definitely think that with this book, do not judge a book by its cover definitely applies, because it just looks like a plain like stupid book, but it is actually really good. So that was the first book I read. The next book I read is this little book here, and that is The Little Book of Alpaca Philosophy by Jennifer McCartney. Jennifer McCartney is one of my absolute favorite authors. She writes such I feel like humorous nonfictions, and this is no exception, though this is more of like just a cozy read talking about alpacas and how they live their life, and how we can learn to live a calmer, wiser life from alpacas. She mentions a lot of different like facts of alpacas as we read, and I did really enjoy it. For example, you can see it also has some illustrations in it as well. It's just really a cute book. And I also feel like so she has like 2 other books in the series. There are a total of 3 books in the series, and I like the other 2 books a lot more than this book. That's why I gave this 3 out of 5 stars, and I feel like I gave the other books a high rating, which were The Little Book of Otter Philosophy and The Little Book of Sloth Philosophy. The Sloth Philosophy was probably my most favorite of all, but yeah, I still really do recommend any of the books from the series. They're just so good. The next book I read and finished was The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. I had been reading this book since I think more than a month, and I finally finished it last month. And I did kind of struggle with reading it in the between, because it had a lot of advice on investment and stocks, which I'm honestly not that interested in right now. So I did like the chapters about like your money mindset and everything. He really does go in detail with a lot of good things. I have quite a few tabs in here, if you can tell. So I have tabbed quite a bit of it that I really did love. I'll just read like one of the tabs just to kind of let you know what the book talks about. So in this one chapter, he talks about how the common denominator in happiness, and he says, but if there's a common denominator in happiness, a universal fuel of joy, it's that people want to control their lives. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want, is priceless. So basically he talks about money just letting us do what we want with our lives, and it is so true. But like, money in itself is not like the thing that makes us happy. It's the ability to control our lives, which is really interesting. And I just love the whole psychology aspect of money, but investment stocks, just not my thing. But yeah, I gave this 3 stars out of 5. Let me just check on Goodreads. Yeah, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. So it was an average read. It was good. If you're into investment and stocks, I think you would love this even more. So, but yeah, it was still quite a good read, and I am going to also give this to Gav because he wants to read it. So the next book I finished was actually an audiobook, and that is Resisting the Buzz by Whitney G. This is a book in a series, and so I had read 2 Weeks Notice by Whitney G long ago on audiobook, and I had loved that one, so I decided to pick this one up as well to read it. And so the story is basically about this like woman who is in, like, she's 40 or she's about to turn 40, and about her boss who is quite younger than her. He's like going to be 29, I think, if I'm not wrong, and it's about a story like about him falling for her, and just the whole story is basically about, you know, him chasing her, kind of. And if you like these office romances, you might like it. So I did enjoy it quite a bit too, but I had quite a few issues with the main character. Her name was, I forgot her name. Her name was Claire, and she was fine and all that, but the only issue with her is that she always kept like obsessing about her age and how she's so old, and she just hated being old. And I feel like I understand that there's a big age gap between the two characters, but still, you know, hating on yourself because of age is kind of a very stupid idea to me, because everybody is growing old, and I don't understand why she was obsessing about it so much all throughout the book. It was a little irritating, honestly. And you know, it's common nowadays to for like older girls to date younger guys, but I understand there was a really huge age gap, but still, like, she needed to just be a little more mature. She felt very immature for her age. That's what I was trying to say. And as for the guy, his name was Jonathan Statham, and he was fine, but I feel like, again, he tended to be quite dominating and controlling at times, though he did step back in the end, so I feel like that was good. So yeah, I just feel like 2 Weeks Notice by Whitney G was way better than this book, but I am planning to read the second book. Like, I've already started it, so I'm hoping that the second book is better. I gave this one 3 stars again. It was average, but not like amazing. The next book I finished, which I absolutely loved, and that is Kikis Delivery Service by Iko Kadono, and this is, if you've not watched Studio Ghibli movies, this is a Ghibli movie, and it is so good. I absolutely love the movie, and that's why I decided to get it and read it. Gav actually got this book for me, which was so sweet of him, and I did love it a lot. I gave this 5 stars as well. If you've watched the movie and not read the book, I highly recommend reading it because the story is quite different from the book. But basically, Kiki is a witch, and they have this coming of age thing where once you're like at a certain age, I think it was like 13, you have to leave your house and go and live alone in a town and make a living for yourself, and only after a year of that you can go back home. And it's basically about Kiki's journey throughout that, and it's just such a cozy and wholesome story. It's so feel good. I love the movie as well as the book, so yeah, highly recommend. This was definitely the highlight of last month. Give it 5 stars, obviously. Now the next 2 books are short stories, so they're not exactly books, but they were on Goodreads, so I decided to mark them. The first one is, and both of them are by Andy Weir. The first one is The Diary of an Ascan by Andy Weir, obviously, and this is actually a prequel to The Martian, and it's a very short story, and I found this online and read it actually. It was like on a blog or something, and basically if you've read The Martian, you should definitely read this because it's kind of funny, like really funny. I ended up giving this 4 stars because it was just hilarious. I feel like Andy Weir's writing is hilarious. I can't wait to read more books by him. I did finish The Martian, but I didn't finish it last month. I finished it on 1st of September, so I couldn't include it in here, but yeah, I highly recommend both The Martian and this short story. And there's another short story that I read by Andy Weir again, which was The Egg. And mind you, this was only 5 pages, but it just blew me away. I gave this 4 stars as well, if I'm not wrong. Let me check. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars, and again, I gave it 4 stars even though it could be a 5-star because it was so short, but at the same time, I don't want to say anything about it because it is a short story, so I could just spoil it. Like, if you are into science fiction, or even if you're not into science fiction, highly recommend reading it. It wouldn't take even like 5 minutes, and it was so impactful. I was speechless after I read that one. So yeah, really love Andy Weir's writing. I can't wait to read more books by him. I'm really looking forward to reading Project Hail Mary and even Artemis. But yeah, I'm hoping he writes more science fictions because I need them, especially like space stories. They're everything. But yeah, I'm gonna stop blabbering about him. And yeah, that's the end of the video. This was quite a short wrap up, I feel, but hope you enjoyed. I definitely like looking back on these to look at what I read, and just I love books, and I hope you're enjoying reading as well and taking care of yourself and everything. And do subscribe if you want to stay up to date with new videos and vlogs, which I upload sometimes regularly and sometimes not so regularly. But yeah, I'll see you in a new video. Bye. Take care.